Right, hello everybody. Welcome back to Metro Fest. God, wasn't that a cracking race from Mallory Park? There's some wonderful, wonderful action. Now, I am delighted to be joined by a Metro enthusiast, shall we say? It's George from MetroPower. George, how you doing, my friend? Are you well?
Hello, yes, very well, thank you.
Good. Now, George, let's. You're a young man. You know the Metro has been around for a while, but you clearly have a love for the Metro, don't you? How did that come about?
Well, it was a funny start, really. When I was first starting out learning to drive, which is nigh on 12 years ago now, I was pretty convinced, I should say, that I would not take my father's suggestion of
Huh.
using a Metro as my first car. I was, well, rather against the idea, and well, to say the least, I took it on because it was your freedom, your first car, and I drove it, and I thought, okay, this is great. But all my other friends at the time were driving Saxos, Clios, the like, bit
Yeah,
more
join the club.
popular back
Yeah.
then. Yeah, bit more popular back then. But what came about from that was I thought, do you know what? Let's just stick with it. I did, and I went on the internet as you do. My dad's a mechanic, and in his youth a petrol head, so I must have inherited some of his genes there because I thought I'm going to start modifying this. I'm going to make it my own. I'm going to make it, something that won't quite have disrespect on the streets with my friends and such like. So I I started modifying it. I came across MetroPower, the car club, and essentially they had a very, very in-depth how-to guide on all the good mods and bad mods that you could do. And off I went, and there we are. It's stuck.
Well, let's talk Metro Power. See the website's just below. Do go check it out, metropower.info. It's an enthusiast page. It's open to everybody from any genre of Metro. How would you best describe Metro Power?
Well, it's a very open community. Excuse me. We don't have a particular sort of age group. We have, despite its very, old school vibe, Metro Power, metros in general, they, were stopped being produced over 2 decades ago now. So it's definitely something that we welcome anyone to come into. Primarily, and it always was about modifying your Metro, hence the name Metro Power.
Okay. Yeah.
But we also, we're happy to accept all sorts, really. Yeah, no, anyone.
So, sure, you've probably got a few stories. What's the wackiest Metro you've ever seen? You must have seen like flares and body kits galore. And
Well, as you can imagine, when the Metro was an entity, and we're talking about perhaps the later range into the 90s here, the max power era of cars. So there was
yeah,
some designs, but of course I was still quite young in those times. I didn't, couldn't drive, etc. But when I started to drive, and it was at that sort of age where all the mod cons you could put on were in-car entertainment, subwoofers and things like that. And in terms of body kits wise, what people tended to do was the goal was to make your car look like the Metro GTI.
and rightly
And
so. Fine looking
yes,
machine.
exactly. So as well as the earlier Metros, they had all the MG Metro Turbo body kits that they put on. So it was almost like a generational thing. The standard Metros of the first lot were always, modded to be the luxurious MG Metro Turbo. And as with the K series, the Mark III, yeah, everyone wanted to go GTI and things like that. But in terms of the wackiest, I mean, to name but a few, there was a particular car named by a chap in Metro Power, quite an old school member actually, had a purple. I can't remember. I think it's amaranth is the correct color, but he had a very max power body kit vibe going on, and he named the car Ronnie, and it had quite a reputation. But sadly, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it did meet a bit of a gruesome end on the
Oh,
Nürburgring.
yeah.
So
that would have cost a fair bit then.
Yes, there may be some details that I'm a bit fuzzy on, but yeah, it had a very legendary status, and it was a very extreme car.
If anybody's watching this right now and remembers Ronnie, please do comment below. And if you've got any pictures, post the pictures below. We can see them. We will look at them, and we'll send them to you as well, George, at MetroPower, because I know it's obviously right.
They're definitely lurking.
They're definitely lurking.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you, because today is obviously a lot about motorsport, and people are looking to get involved with, say, the MG MetroCup. And think about sourcing cars. Is it still quite easy to find Metro cars? Are they still readily available?
Well, when I first started into the Metro scene, it was a very, very easy way to go and find any Metro, be it in a good or bad state. And because of obviously their reputation, most of the time they had rust of some kind. There's two avenues. It was either you found someone had a very genuine example, some old dear who parked her Metro up in the garage decades
ago. Once a week to the shops.
It's gone to Sainsbury's or other supermarkets are available, and and never gone any further than 3 miles in it. And those were the ones that you wanted, because they hadn't been treated badly. But again, the other avenue was you found someone or found a person that wanted to get rid, and it was in a terrible state or heavily modified. And those are your two avenues. I always thought going down the route of finding someone that had locked it in a barn find, etc., was the best way. But you do, and as time has progressed on, that has become a very difficult avenue to pursue.
Yeah.
And due to the Metro turning, I believe it was 40 only a few months ago in October, I think, the value has shot up, and getting hold of them is not necessarily more difficult, but a very, very different price than what it was, say, a decade ago. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a quick picture actually to show. This is your website, isn't it? Look at that. Do go check it out, metropower.info. As you can see, there's all sorts of info. Oh, look, there's a little MetroFest announcement down there as well. Look at that.
I was going to break this news to you. Unfortunately, you weren't the first to have a MetroFest long ago now. Long ago now. Now,
George, what are you doing to me?
You've probably smashed it. Don't worry. There's going to be no solicitor action or anything like that. But long ago, we had it was almost like a car meet, but a weekend job. I live down in the West Country in Somerset, as you can probably tell from the accent. But
I can't know you said it. Yeah.
But I hosted one or two back in 2012, I think, where we'd go around all the local sites and convoy about and things like that, and night out and stuff like that. But nothing on this scale, so you're safe. You're safe.
Well, I am pleased to say I picked a good name then, didn't I?
Yes. Well, we chose Trofest, you see, obviously.
Okay.
So you definitely safe from a lawsuit.
Well, that's why I got you on the show, actually, just to smooth things over.
Yeah. Okay.
And talking to that as well, I know with regards to MetroPower, you do have some supporters, don't you? And some places that people can go if they need a bit of help with stuff. If you want to, feel free to give them a shout out.
Yes. Well, as with anything, getting hold of parts from your parts counter or various different suppliers is quite a challenge these days with old cars in general, not just the Metro, but the MG Rover scene as a whole has, lots of parts that, especially with the modified Metros with the different engine conversions, you can get parts from various different suppliers. But the particular ones I can think of off the top of my head for custom, build machine stuff, there's a guy down in Cornwall named Ralph. He runs a company called Component Engineering. Look him up. He's very good. Various different fabrications that you can add to your Metro, like shock turrets, weldable in reinforcements for front shocks and things like that. He does all sorts of things in titanium and aluminium. So if you're a big weight saving person for your Metro, that's definitely a guy you wanna hit up.
I just go on a diet usually, George.
Yeah, that's hard in these lockdown days, isn't it? But yeah, so component engineering that's a good one to mention. There's also various MG, not necessarily specific to the Metro, but again, for engine conversions. Discount MG Rover spares. They're a good place for getting a hold of genuine and, you know, fairly priced things, so it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg when you go to your parts counter. There's also a company called Retro Reproductions. Now, they focus mainly on producing plastic moldings and 3D printing replacement things. So you could get your GTI spats, you can get your splitters, various little interior trim bits and things like that. So if you're looking to, you know, not necessarily modify but maintain and keep your car very original, which is, you know, definitely a thing these days, especially if you have a desirable model, there's another person you wanna hit up. And all of these people should be linked on our website anyway, so you should get a hold of them.
Fantastic. So if you are looking to do up your Metro, you need a bit of help, do go to metropower.info, do check it out. The supplies, it's good information to know, actually, George. It really, really is. Like you said, the car is 40 years old now. It hasn't been manufactured for a long time. Is it classed as a classic car? Well,
I think people are still, although I have two, you see, I have the very latest 97 registration and also a 95 registration. So what's that? That's, you know, over 20 years now. So I think the classic car range is something between 20 and 25 year, but the original Metros, you know, the Austin Metros, the MG Metros, and you know, the most desirable, the MG Metro Turbo, they're definitely all classics, and the price tag that they sell at reflects that, and they're more popular as time goes on.
You find that, don't you? You know,
yes.
I don't want to give other brand names away of cars and stuff, but even if you've got the most common car now, if you chuck it in a garage for 30 years, then it's going to probably be worth more than it is now.
Of course, yeah.
George, thanks so much for your time. Look, I really, really appreciate that, and thank you for all the great work you're doing with MetroPower. It's great to have. It was great to be working with you guys as well. We are going to be showing, obviously, every single MG MetroCup race live this year. Hopefully, we'll be showing it on MetroPower as well, so you can get your fill of motorsport and Metro's day-to-day runners at metropower.info.